The Power of Not Reacting. This isn't just an ordinary book. It's a mental guide that teaches you the art of staying calm in a world where everyone reacts without thinking. In this book, author Justice O'Malcolm explains how we remain slaves to our emotions, and how, by learning to control that single moment of reaction, we can change our entire lives. This book is so important because today, everyone wants to have the quickest response. They want to win the argument, to have the last word. But in this rush, we lose our mental balance, our energy, and our self-respect. What happens if we don't stop reacting? Our mood falls under the control of others. Our minds get tangled up in trivial matters, and we feel weak, tired, and anxious from within. But what happens if we learn not to react? We learn to stay calm in every situation. The words and behavior of others no longer affect us. And most importantly, we become the masters of our own minds, no longer operated by someone else's remote control. In this video, you will find the solution to achieve that mindset. You will learn how to free yourself from the addiction of reacting, how to identify and control your emotional triggers, and how to turn your silence, awareness, and wisdom into a real superpower.
Chapter 1. You don't have to react to everything. Why? The power of not reacting begins with a fundamental but often overlooked truth. We often assume that if someone says or does something, we must respond, whether that response is anger, sadness, or a justification. But author Justice O'Malcolm says that reacting is not a requirement. It's just a conditioning we've been taught since childhood. Sometimes someone belittles us, and we immediately snap back. Someone makes a sarcastic comment, and we start justifying ourselves in front of everyone. Someone ignores us, and we become restless. But the first major message of this book is this: not every action requires a reaction. And sometimes, offering no reaction at all is the most powerful response. Why is this mindset so necessary? In today's world, everyone wants to prove their point. Every discussion, debate, or daily conversation has turned into a battle of egos. That's why it's crucial to understand that if we keep reacting to everything, we will burn out. We will become slaves to the behavior of others and lose our mental peace in every situation. This mindset is also necessary because it returns your peace to you. When you stop responding to every little thing, you find clarity, space, and calm within yourself. How does this affect our lives? Imagine you're in a great mood one day, but a colleague or a random stranger ignores you or says something rude. If you react instantly, your entire day will be spent in that negative energy, anger, resentment, and anxiety. And this doesn't just happen once. We get caught in these reaction cycles daily. We read a comment on social media, and our day is ruined. A friend doesn't reply, and we overthink it for hours. Someone doesn't praise us, and we start feeling inadequate. Every time we react, we are the ones who lose our peace. Vijay is a marketing executive, hardworking, disciplined, and dedicated. But in his team, there's a colleague named Sandeep who intentionally interrupts him in every meeting, dismisses his ideas, and questions his credibility in front of others. Initially, Vijay reacted every time. His voice would get louder, he'd become defensive, and sometimes he would even argue after the meeting. But it didn't make any difference to anyone. In fact, the team started seeing Vijay as overly reactive and emotional. One day, Vijay changed his approach. Whatever Sandeep said, Vijay just looked at him, smiled, and remained calm. In the meeting, he presented his points calmly and confidently, without any fear or urgency. Gradually, people started noticing Vijay's maturity. Sandeep himself began to stay quiet, and Vijay earned more respect at the office. Why? Because he stopped reacting. Now the question is, how can you build this habit? Pause before you respond. When someone provokes you, just wait a second. Ask yourself, is this truly worth responding to? Deep breathing. Take 3 deep breaths. This simple act shifts you from an emotional state to a logical one, calming your mind in that moment. An internal dialogue. Tell yourself repeatedly, I don't have to say something about everything. My peace is my response. Nightly reflection. Before sleeping, sit for 5 minutes and think, where did I react unnecessarily today? Can I stop myself there tomorrow? When you start observing yourself daily, the pattern of reacting will slowly begin to break. Justice O'Malcolm says, the moment you react, you give them your power. But the moment you pause, you take your power back. Every time you choose silence over a response, you are making yourself stronger. Not reacting is not weakness. It is a sign of wisdom and self-control.
Chapter 2. People use your reactions to control you. In this chapter, Justice O'Malcolm presents a harsh but necessary truth. In this world, some people say and do things for one reason: to get a reaction out of you, so they can control you through that reaction. Manipulative people see your emotions as a game. They know exactly which buttons to push to make you angry, defensive, or broken. They don't attack you directly. They use your reaction as a weapon to strip you of your power to think, speak, and make decisions. Why is this understanding crucial? Because when you don't realize someone is deliberately provoking you, you fall into the same trap again and again. You repeatedly start explaining yourself, defending your actions, and in the end, you get exhausted and start believing you are the one at fault. This is the pattern that lets manipulators win. It's vital to understand that your reaction is their goal. If you can remain calm, their entire game falls apart. How does this play out in daily life? We all have people around us who say things that get under our skin. Things like, "You can never do this right," or "You're always so overconfident," or "You're just putting on an act." These words aren't direct attacks, but they sting. And if we react, they win. They learn that we are slaves to their words. Arav is a college student, hardworking, quiet, and focused on his work. But a classmate, Karan, frequently makes odd comments to him. "Why are you always so serious? You're just trying to be the teacher's favorite. What are you going to achieve by studying so much?" Initially, Arav would retort, "It's none of your business." Sometimes it would lead to a full-blown argument, but that's exactly what Karan wanted, Arav's reaction. One day, Arav simply looked at Karan, smiled, and said nothing. No justification, no comeback. He just went back to his work. The next day, Karan tried to taunt him again, but when he got no reaction, he himself fell silent. Arav had changed only one thing: his reaction. And that single change broke all of Karan's control over him. How to protect yourself from manipulation. Identify your triggers. Note down the person or situation that repeatedly provokes you. Delay your reaction. Don't say anything immediately. Just listen and think, am I a slave to these words? Is this worth my energy? Adopt a mental mantra. Their goal is my response. My silence is their end. Use the mirror strategy. When someone provokes you, repeat their words back to them in a calm, neutral tone. For example, if they say, "Trying to be a hero?" you can say, "Yes, I'm trying to be a hero." This confuses the other person and breaks their control. Justice O'Malcolm writes, "The most powerful defense is no reaction. When your opponent can't even touch you, all their power vanishes. Every time you choose not to react, you show them that you are emotionally free. And that is what unsettles them the most."
Chapter 3. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer. It happened to Shweta again today. At the office, a colleague called her presentation useless and insulted her in front of everyone. He wanted Shweta to react angrily, to argue with him. But this time, Shweta said nothing. She just took a deep breath, smiled,
and went back to her seat. She was silent, but in that silence, there was a power that made her colleague deeply uncomfortable. The third message of this book is profound. People always want a reaction from you, because when you react, you lose your control. But when you stay silent, you retain your power. Silence is not weakness. It is a language of control that is louder than any words. In relationships, arguments, and situations of disrespect, why does silence work? It creates uncertainty. Imagine someone attacks your character and you say nothing. In that silence, the other person starts to feel uneasy. They don't know what you're thinking, and that makes them anxious. It projects strength. People perceive you as strong because you are in control of your emotions. It conserves your energy. It's better to preserve your peace than to fight over trivial matters. Daytip was a calm person, but at his sister's wedding, when his uncle called him useless in front of everyone, he felt a fire ignite within him. He wanted to shout, to argue back, to prove himself right, but he said nothing. He just stood there silently and after a while walked away. 2 days later, the same uncle came to him and said, "Son, you said nothing that day, but your silence taught me a great deal." So, how can you practice silence? When someone is angry, you stay calm. This shows that you are in control and acts like a mirror reflecting their anger back at you. If someone repeatedly provokes you, don't respond to their words. By staying silent, you take away their power. In a conflict, pause before you speak. Ask yourself, is this really necessary? If not, silence is your superpower. Responding every time is not a sign of maturity. Sometimes, silence is the loudest voice. In the end, every insult, every argument, every provocation in life can be a trap. If you respond to everything, you will constantly lower yourself to others' levels. But when you stay silent, the other person thinks, this person is above my words. And that's where you win, without saying a word, without fighting a battle. Silence isn't weakness, it's a master move. And this move works when you're completely calm and wise from within.
Chapter 4. Emotions are guests, not the masters. At 4 a.m., Aditya's eyes shot open. His heart was pounding, his forehead was covered in sweat, and a single voice echoed in his mind. Am I truly worthy of this life? For the past few weeks, anxiety had been stealing his sleep. Every day, he chased his feelings, sometimes anger, sometimes fear, sometimes guilt, and every time he lost. But one day, a therapist told him a single line. Emotions are guests, not orders. Let them come, but don't let them take the driver's seat of your life. That was the day Aditya's life changed. The message of this chapter is very clear. What we feel is not always the truth. If you feel angry, it doesn't necessarily mean the other person is wrong. If you feel scared, it doesn't mean something bad is about to happen. If you feel sad, it doesn't mean your life is worthless. Our feelings are just signals, not decisions. And if we react to every emotion, we are enslaving ourselves to them. Nalini was a school teacher, very kind and understanding. But sometimes her anger would flare up unexpectedly. She would scold a student for a small mistake. Later, she would feel guilty, but in that moment, she couldn't stop herself. One day, a child said to her, "Ma'am, when you shout, we get scared. We don't learn." That line struck her heart. She sought therapy and learned that emotions are like the weather. They come and go, but you are the sky. So what should you do when emotions overwhelm you? Pause before you react. Whenever a strong emotion arises, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this true or is this just my fear speaking? Name the emotion. Say to yourself, I am feeling angry right now, or I am feeling anxious. Simply naming the emotion helps calm the mind. Let it pass like a wave. Remember, no emotion lasts forever. If you don't resist it, it will pass on its own. Don't take action at the peak of emotion.
Never make a big decision when you are angry, scared, or sad. An emotion is a message, not an order. Listen to it, understand it, but don't act on it without thinking. In the end, every emotion is a visitor. It will knock on your door, sometimes as fear, sometimes as anger, sadness, or excitement. But you have to decide, will you make that visitor the master of your life? Or will you treat it like a guest, offer it a seat, and then peacefully let it go? You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that decides which emotion to give attention to and which to let pass. That is emotional maturity, and that is inner freedom.
Chapter 5. Not every battle is worth fighting. It was 6 p.m. and Arav was standing in a crowded metro, tired from a long day at the office. As his elbow accidentally brushed against someone's bag, the man in front of him yelled, "Can't you watch where you're going, you idiot?" Everyone turned to look, and Arav felt a surge of rage. He clenched his fists, ready to retaliate, but then he suddenly remembered his mother's words. "Son, not every fight is about your honor. Some are just a waste of time and energy." Arav remained silent. The man muttered a few more insults and left. Arav smiled to himself. I won because I controlled myself. The purpose of this chapter is to deliver a simple yet life-changing concept. Responding to every insult doesn't show your greatness. Sometimes staying silent shows your maturity. Everyone will try to provoke you, with words, with looks, on social media, but you have to decide. Is this fight truly worth your time, your peace of mind, and your energy? Sonali was a successful entrepreneur. She had built everything through her hard work. But online trolls constantly tried to bring her down. You only got ahead because of your connections. There's nothing special about you. In the beginning, she would reply to every comment, write angry posts, and cry at night. Then one day, her mentor told her, "If you stop to throw a stone at every dog that barks, you'll never reach your destination." From that day on, Sonali made a rule for herself. I will only engage in battles that are connected to my growth, peace, and purpose. Everything else is on mute. What is the emotional economy? Imagine you have only 100 emotional points each day. Now you decide, will you spend those points on a foolish person's taunt, or will you invest them in your dreams? Every argument, every response, every justification costs energy. And if you keep reacting to every little thing, you will be exhausted when it comes to the big things. Pause and ask, is this worth it? When someone provokes you, ask yourself, will responding to this give me any real benefit? Practice the power of letting go. Remember, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Use the 5x5 rule. Will this issue matter in 5 days, 5 months, or 5 years? If not, ignore it now. Choose silence as a strategy, not fear. When you are silent, you are not choosing inaction, you are choosing your direction. People will try to drain your energy, to tire you out, but wisdom lies in deciding who deserves a response and who should be left with a smile. In the end, if you enter every battlefield, you won't always win. But if you choose the right battles, even a loss can become your strength. Responding to every insult, argument, and opinion feeds the ego, but silence grows your inner strength. Your peace is your greatest victory, and protecting it is the true art.
Chapter 6. You don't owe everyone an explanation. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have a responsibility to justify yourself every time. This means that when someone misunderstands you, falsely accuses you, or doubts your intentions, you don't need to offer an explanation every single time. Most people think, if I don't say anything, what will people think? This very thought exhausts you, because then you start trying to please everyone, answering every question, and in the process, you lose yourself. Remember this one truth. The people who truly know you don't need an explanation. And those who don't want to understand won't be convinced, no matter how much you explain. Why do we constantly defend ourselves? We're afraid that people will misunderstand us. We think that if we don't respond, we'll appear weak, or we want to prove that we are in fact right. But this mindset puts us in emotional slavery, where anyone can control our feelings just by saying a few words. Now understand where the real power lies. Imagine you are a calm lake. Someone throws a stone into it. If you react, ripples will form across the water. But if you remain stable, the stone will simply sink and the water will become calm again. This is what happens when you don't respond. Your calmness unnerves the other person. They start to feel guilty and realize, I tried to provoke them, but they didn't lose their composure. Imagine a girl named Sameksha. She is very quiet and hardworking. One day at the office, her senior falsely blames her. This presentation failed because of your mistake. Now, Sameksha has two options. She can angrily defend herself, argue, or start crying. Or she can remain calm, bow her head, and focus on her work. She chose the second path. She said nothing, just calmly continued her work. A week later, the same senior said, I was testing you, and you surprised me with your maturity. Sameksha's silence earned her respect. How can you apply this in your life? You don't need to justify everything. What you think is your opinion. I know the truth, and that's enough. Silence is not weakness, it's depth. When you don't respond, the other person gets confused, and that's where your power lies. Let go of the habit of proving yourself. Someone who is determined to misunderstand you will never be convinced no matter what you say. Make this your mantra. Silence is my boundary. In the end, just remember this. Don't belittle yourself by offering explanations to every single person. You are not a news channel that has to respond to everyone. Your respect, your dignity lies in your silence. Because sometimes being silent is the most powerful response of all.
Chapter 7. Staying calm when there is chaos all around is the greatest strength. Today's world is incredibly fast-paced. There is noise everywhere, social media, work pressure, relationship conflicts. And everyone is trying to make their voice the loudest. People shout over small things, they argue, they get angry, and they often explode with their emotions without thinking. In such an environment, if you also start shouting just as loudly, you will simply become a part of that noise. But is that the right way? The book says no. So, what is real strength? Real strength is staying calm, keeping yourself stable, and not wasting your energy. When other people are caught up in anger, arguments, and conflict, the person who remains calm and in control of themselves is the one who is truly strong from within. Being calm doesn't mean you are weak or scared. It means I respect my energy, my peace, and my thoughts. What does this peace give us? Mental clarity. When you are calm, you are able to make the right decisions. Influence over others. Your calm presence attracts others and has a positive influence on them. Reduced stress. The stress that builds up from constantly reacting diminishes. Increased respect. People see you as a wise and serious person. Imagine Rahul works in a busy corporate office. Some of his colleagues would often get angry over minor issues and start arguments. In the past, Rahul would also jump into the fight, only to regret it later. Then Rahul made a decision. I will no longer get involved in arguments. Whenever someone got angry, Rahul would just stay calm and listen. Gradually, his colleagues began to appreciate his calm nature. Rahul's stress also reduced and his work improved. How can you learn this? Stillness. Breathe and pause. Whenever you feel anger or stress, take a deep breath and pause before reacting instantly. Meditate for 5 to 10 minutes daily. This will help calm your mind.
Stay away from the noise. Whenever possible, spend some time alone. Get close to nature or sit in a quiet place. Remind yourself, I am responsible for my peace, not for someone else's anger or words. One important point. When other people are shouting, being silent sends the most powerful message that you are in control of yourself. You are not like them. In the end, in today's noisy world where everyone is trying to be the loudest, staying calm, stable and unshaken is your greatest strength. When you embrace peace, you will not only give yourself mental tranquility, but also become a strong, mature and respected individual in the eyes of others. Remember, in the midst of noise, silence speaks volumes.
In life, it's not necessary to react instantly to every difficulty and every challenge. Real strength lies in understanding your emotions and not letting them overwhelm you. Maintain your inner peace and stability, because that is your greatest power. When someone provokes you or puts you down, learn to protect your dignity by staying silent and directing your energy to the right places. Not every battle is worth fighting, so make wise decisions for your life and stay away from unnecessary conflicts. Remember, emotions come and go. Don't let them dominate your decisions. With silence and stability, you will not only influence others, but also maintain your own mental peace. This is how you can make your life better and stress-free.